Hi, Jody.
Well, hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
Ah, just dynamite. Good to be connected with you.
Great to be connected with you. That's interesting over there. Is that a bunch of pictures on the wall?
Oh, it is a collage I made of a bunch of images from one of my famous artists, famous artists. So I got all of his pictures and I cut them out and I just put them on a collage.
Oh, that's so cool. What artist is it?
So David Shrigley, he's
Okay.
really sarcastic out of the UK. And each one is like, I don't know, for me, I just look like I'll just stand there on some days and I'll just read a few of them and I'll have a little giggle. And then it makes me,
That's
like
it.
my life a little more.
That's it. That's why you do it. Very cool. So
Yeah.
where are you located?
In Palm Springs in California.
Oh, good for
Whereabouts are
you.
you? Are you
I'm in
Kansas?
Kansas City, Missouri. We're getting ready to head into a absolute Arctic tundra here in like a day. Such a weird feeling when you're in the Midwest when it's like it's been snowy and we got the snow and it's a little bit stable today. The kids were out for a couple days this week, and it's like the calm before the tornado. Like the tundra is going to come. Like the Chiefs are going to play on Saturday against
Yeah.
Miami, who's used to
Oh,
temperate, warm. It's going to be below zero at game time, and it's going to plummet after that.
whoa. Uh, okay, so we just relocated mostly full time here, but from Chicago for 15 years,
Okay,
and then born and raised in Toronto. So like I understand
you know,
the feeling you're going through, but it's funny because here it's just always so nice that there is something admittedly cozy about knowing something's coming. And as long as you don't have to be out in it
yeah,
playing football game or whatever, like there's something that's a little bit like
I get it.
hunker down, right? I don't know if you
There's
feel that way.
there's a rhythm of the seasons. There's an appreciation you get for each successive season and the
Yeah.
change and embracing it and knowing that after this is done, you can hear the birds of spring. Like there's all of these
Yeah. Yeah.
wheels, because I've been
Ah.
out in California enough, which is just, I love it out there. But it's like
Mhm.
there's a level of it where it's like it's pretty stasis. Like you
Mhm.
know that when it rains, it's going to be abnormal, but it's usually going to be sunny and temperate and perfect.
Yeah. 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 The rhythm is the perfect word you used. And there is something that is, I think, important about it. So yeah. Well, anyway, maybe you don't want the frigid rhythm right now, but at least there's hope on the horizon.
We'll take it. It's all good.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
great. It's great to meet you. And speaking of kind of a frigid, temperate thing, I want to start first with living through a pandemic. The last 3.5 years or so, how did you get through it, and how did it subsequently change you?
What a great question. Because it is, pandemic is still has its tentacles all around us.
Uh huh.
For me, the pandemic was crucial because it acted as the push that I talk about in a broader scale in the work I do, looking at the fact that our lives are finite. And so let's remember that and then use that as the motivator to go on with the business of living.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic came for me, I was finishing a grad school program at Penn for positive psychology. And it gave me this wake up call of what do I really want to be doing? So at the time, I was in a partnership with a business partner doing leadership development and coaching, and it was great. We'd had a great run. It was just a really great business. And yet, for some reason, it wasn't soul stirring in the way that I didn't even know I needed until the wake up call of 2020 of this, is this what you really want to be doing? And fortunately, I had something, another passion. I got bit by the bug of what I call, well, memento mori is the Latin phrase that means remember that we must die.
Yeah.
And so, because I was studying it in school and because I was just giving myself this permission about, I want this to be the rest of my life, then the pandemic like threw everything up in the air anyway. And it was like, well, up to us to put the pieces back together the way we wanted.
Yeah.
So that was my fabulous excuse slash opportunity to design it the way that it feels alive. Now it's ironic. I always joke like that I study death to feel alive, but trust me, it works. So
Yeah.
that was the way that I then got a chance to start and build this
Yeah.
through 2020 and launch it. And fortunately, some people were interested because most of us had this sort of sense of salience of, oh shit, our lives are maybe in peril. And
Yeah.
now I'm more interested in this topic than ever before. So that provided the not only the opportunity, the playground to create it, but also a little bit of a captive audience to listen.
I think it's rather intuitive. It's kind of like having a bad parent or a bad sibling. You base that off of what you don't want to deal with anymore.
Oh, so such a good point. We learned a lot about what we don't want.
Yeah,
And I think that's crucial,
yeah,
right? I don't want it to look like that. That's a good template to avoid. How do I do the opposite?
that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
Darwinian. It's just you evolve into another place and you make it better for the next generation or whoever's with you. So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
well said. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you were to be put in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids looked up and said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that
Yeah.
child?
Yeah. Ooh, I would say I get to stand on a stage and talk to people and motivate them to live and have as much fun as you're having when you're not in school.
So we know because of the pandemic that you got to this point, but take me
Mhm.
back. You kind of mentioned Chicago and Toronto.
Mhm.
Take me back to kind of where the seeds began for
Mm.
you that grew into what has eventually become your destiny.
Mhm. I've always been interested in us liking our lives more, being better, self-actualization, top of the
Yeah.
pyramid type stuff, you know?
Hmm.
So when I was younger and well, my first job out of college was as a personal trainer. And then I worked in the health club business for 17 years as an executive. And it was this kind of the idea about let's not only just be healthier, but it wasn't about the body. It was about being vitally alive.
Yeah.
And all along the way, there's been extreme interest in self-development. And then I got into executive coaching for a decade and helping people be their very best, et cetera, not just in work executively, but out of work too. But all the through line, I've had this fascination with this idea that we are all going to die. And the irony, I just find it really quite amusing that we're all working very hard to like our lives, our bodies, our relationships, be successful, feel good against this juxtaposition that poof, one day we're just not going to be here anymore. I've always found that to be I'll choose the word amusing and not existentially cratering. But this
Sure.
idea that we're all working hard to love life and then snap your fingers, it will be gone, hopefully later than
Yeah.
sooner. And then that just got me toying with this. Wow, it's the fact that because it's temporary, that does drive us way subconsciously
Yeah.
to, make the most of it. Or some of us do feel pressure by that, but I want to leverage and harness the pressure
Yeah.
of the fact that we have only 4,000 weeks to live. And I get us counting our Mondays to use that to our advantage. So for me, it's been a through line all the way towards now. I can't not be the one then screaming from the mountaintops this thing that I believe so strongly in, which is now from the stage doing workshops and keynotes and then writing and helping people read and feel hopefully inspired.
So weird. All of these things that you're saying, I just read Cormac McCarthy's Stella Maris, I believe. Have you read
Okay.
that?
No, but I love Cormac McCarthy.
Oh man, it's a psych session with somebody, and it's basically just this massive probing of all of these underpinnings of everything that we go through consciously and subconsciously, touches on philosophy and sociology, and just all of these things that are really heavy as humans that we kind of get
Mm.
desensitized to because of just the way our American culture is and how
Mm.
colloquial we kind of take things. But anyways,
Mm.
what you're bringing up is a lot of these things that were kind of like pinions of kind of this tent
Mm.
that was erected during this whole book. So it's interesting.
Wow.
I'm thinking about all of those things because I just turned 50 a year ago, and I'm thinking, I'm
Mm.
over halfway done,
Yeah.
and I just had this weird feeling like a few months ago of like I'm not ready. I really enjoy being around. I
Oh,
there's all
oh,
these things I want to do. I'm not ready
yeah.
for the carnival to end.
Yeah. I love the way you put that. Well, can I ask you how did 50 feel? Was it feel monumental, like a thing?
I like it. I mean, I like getting older just because it's the Benjamin Buttons effect. It's like
Mm.
there's so many things. We're a bunch of ding dongs. We don't know how to do money. We don't know how to do relationships. It takes our whole life to get to a point where they have all these failures and epiphanies, and they clash, and it takes time to do that.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Well, I like your wording about how you're not ready, and that when you combine that with wisdom that you've gained over these years, not perfect yet, but wisdom. And that I'm not ready. It's like you said, you want the carnival to end. These are the images that I love. I have a drawing about like the spectrum of aliveness, I call it, ranging, being dead inside with a toe tag on your toe, but still going through the motions,
Yeah.
which is what many of us do quite well, all the way over to the carnival of life. And
Yeah.
at some point, we can't handle the carnival every day, but
Right.
the choice and decision, and what you're talking about is like, I still want to get the most out of my years.
Yeah, and I just want to be around. There's just things that I enjoy doing. I really enjoy being alive, and I mean, just like
Mhm.
even today, I went by. We have a big lake out here, and there was this fog and mist, and I had to turn over and take pictures of it because it was so magnanimous. And I'm like, man, I want to see this stuff, And then when I'm gone, it's gone.
Oh, all right. You right there just gave an example of something that many of us don't do. That is subtle, it's subtle but impactful, right? You saw something in the moment that struck you. Now, first of all, you noticed you were attuned to it. And many of us, because we're just like on like autopilot, we're just like going to the next thing. But you noticed the fog. You stopped the car. I'm assuming you were in a car.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
said you were. You
Yes.
stopped, like you're taking a whole other step there into a world of, let me savor this. Let me
Yeah.
experience it, even if it's for 120 seconds. But
Yeah.
you took the photo, you immersed yourself. Those are the things. And this is the part that I just get really excited about. If you can't tell, I'm getting all giddy here,
Sure.
is this experience of living life fully. And I look at it through two dimensions of living wider and deeper. It doesn't have to mean that we have to spend a ton of money or
Yep.
have a ton of time to do it. We don't have to fly to Thailand. That would be lovely. But for most of us, it's stopping and acknowledging and noticing and immersing ourselves in a 2 minute, 3 minute, 7 minute experience that can
Yeah.
change the trajectory of your day.
And I noticed with women more than men that women will
Mhm.
stop and compliment each other, and it's like the
Mm.
greatest thing in the world. It's like every bouquet of roses you've received in your life in that one moment, And it's like those are the moments that people are
Mm.
like, "Wow, the makeup looks really good," or that shirt really works. It's like men don't really do that kind of a thing, but it's very commonplace. But I see the relief and the validation
Yeah.
in the female brain that just is the endorphin level goes through the roof.
Yeah, you are right. There is more of an inclination towards the nurturing, collaborative, kind of caring side as more traditional female traits. Let's not even open the can of worms in the workplace, where sometimes it can actually be the opposite. But we won't talk about that right now. I
Right.
would say for men, though, I mean, do you sense, is there just as much of a desire to have those good feelings? It's just but the lack of the mechanism to do it.
I think so. I think we're all like men tend to tamp it all down. I'm an IT guy by day, so I go into schools all the time. And I went into one of the schools one time and one of the kids looked up and said, "Wow, you got great hair." Like no one would ever say that would be male that would be over like 12 ever. And I was like, "Oh, cool." But I was just thinking about
Yeah.
that's why I love going into these schools because there's this level of innocence. Like my one of
Oh.
my favorite poets, Charles Bukowski, said, "We're born geniuses and buried idiots. We spend our lives putting fences up and restricting all of these things that give us this wonderment and this imagination as children." And that's what
Yeah.
children do. They just blurt it out.
Yeah.
It's guttural.
It's real, it's raw. They haven't had the beaten out of them the socialization process. And there's a lot to learn there. And I think, well, back to the power that we have as humans, not just to do the things for you. Some of it's DIY, right? Get out of
Yeah,
your car, admire the fog.
yeah,
And a lot of it then is back to the socialization part. It's like, who are you surrounding yourself with? Like, we can't make our friends necessarily compliment us per se. Although
sure.
actually, we probably could say it makes me feel really good when you say nice things to me, although it does feel a bit fishy, like you're fishing for it.
Yeah,
But the real question comes down to, are we being super aware of who we are spending time with? Because
right.
that's going to dictate. The social contagion theory is really real in psychology,
Yeah,
that people will rub off on us for the good and the bad.
yeah,
So, who are we spending time with?
right.
What conversations are happening? Are they lifting us up and energizing us, or are they de-energizing us? And what are we doing about it? Because we actually have more control over that than we think, right?
Yeah,
Like, you can spend less time with your, like, de-energizing mother.
yeah. Absolutely. You can make choices for sure. So,
Yeah.
speaking of inspirations, who's been a hero for you in your life?
Hmm. Hmm. You know, kind of unconventional. I would say that it might be this amalgamation of philosophers, writers, poets of old, like you quoted Charles Bukowski, like people who have, like I'm a huge fan of quotes and writings. Henry David Thoreau, the masters of people that make us think in ways and wake us up. So I have a veritable, I mean, I have an Excel file that's quite nerdy and long of inspirational tidbits,
Yeah.
and I go to that. And it's, so for me, it's like my group of people who don't know that I exist. Many of them are dead. That's why, of words that I find really moving, because I do
Yeah.
believe that they can help direct our mood in the moment, and then therefore the choices we make that day that then impact our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Who
know,
would
I
you
was
say is
what
a hero?
oh,
Can I ask you?
you know what's funny? I actually met my hero about a month and a half ago, and I'm still like, I can't believe it happened. When I was a kid, I loved Dwight Gooden, the pitcher for the New York Mets.
Okay.
And he got into a lot of trouble and was in and out of rehab, but he was my favorite pitcher. And I was collecting baseball cards and got into it. And I had posters all over the place. So, anyway, long story short, he's going to come to Kansas City and he's going to be inducted into our Negro Leagues Baseball Hall of Fame for something called Hall of Game. And it's black athletes that have done amazing things over their career, but haven't
Wow.
necessarily made the Hall of Fame. So he's going to
Okay.
come in a group, and I find out serendipitously through Instagram that he's wearing a Negro Leagues Baseball Museum shirt. So I kind of probe into it and find out that he's coming in September. So I contact their PR person and said, "I'm local media. I'd love to come in." It took a while. I didn't think it was going to happen. Anyway, the day that it was going to happen, my son's special needs, and he does this program called Challenge Air, and they fly the kids over the city for the day. So I was supposed to do that. I was going to have him with me. There was all this construction locally, so I didn't know if it was going to happen, but I was just like, if it happens, it happens. I finally get down there. All this national media is everywhere, and I'm waiting. My whole life, I love this guy. Bob Kendrick, who runs it, has a big booming voice, very, very confident stature. He comes around, I hear his voice, and Dwight Gooden's coming there, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, this is happening. And Dwight just kind of comes around the room, he angles around, and there's no reason for him to come up to me. The whole room's full, and he comes up and he just shakes my hand. And I said, "Hi, I'm Joe Dimino." And he was like, "Nice to meet you." And he just went on, and I was just like, but I got to interview him. I read his biography. My
No
wife
way.
got she got me his jersey last Christmas because I watched this documentary, and I got his jersey and I got a biography and I got to interview him, and he was really into it. He was into it so much that the media person was like, he's got to go over to bigger media people with bigger cameras, because I just had my iPhone. I'm just talking to him, but
Yeah.
I got out. My son was with me and he's on the spectrum, so I didn't want to get him worked up, but we got out and I was a little misty, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I just met my hero." And he was like,
Oh,
"Are you going to be okay?" And I got in the car and explained the whole thing to him. Like, when I was a kid, when I was your age, I loved him. And I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "He's my hero now."
oh my God.
And
Shivers.
and it was like I could not believe the whole thing. Because
Yeah.
it may not have happened. I literally was in traffic. The whole area downtown was rerouted. So it was just one of those serendipitous things where
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
just have faith in this reality that no matter what you do, you just got to go for it. And it was
Yes.
cool. Yeah,
Oh,
that's it.
oh, that message is so cool. There's a combination of, I hear two things from you there. Just have faith and serendipity. Some stuff's beyond you. So some of it is a little bit of like, accept that stuff's going on around us, that, and then, but the take action part, like
Yeah,
do it, like to make, like take your shots, like
that's it.
go for it.
That's
Cause
it.
you'll never, well, I'm Canadian. Wayne Gretzky says, right? Like
Yeah,
you'll miss 100% of the shots you never take.
that's right.
Damn it.
Yeah,
Go for it. And yeah, maybe something happened. Maybe the stars are aligned.
that's it.
I love
So
it. Good for you.
it's yeah, so it's fun. So let me ask you this: who would you love to meet if you could meet one person on the planet? Who would it be?
Mm. Yeah, I will. My default is Oprah. I mean, she's
Yeah,
just Oprah freaking Winfrey.
yeah,
Overcomes challenge, makes a name, makes a difference, has like charisma, like undescribable. I mean, she's just phenomenal. So I think it would
yeah,
be Oprah.
yeah.
Yeah.
It would be really weird to see her in person, though. She's such a titan. Like,
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think about it. I fantasize about it. I try and pre-plan it because I really want to make this happen.
yeah,
And my question is, do you play it cool or do you just like be honest and say like I am peeing my pants? I'm just not sure how to
yeah,
play that
yeah. That's the
with her.
thing. Well, and that was the thing I was trying to do with Dwight. I didn't want to get his autograph. I didn't want to do anything weird. I did get selfies at the end, but it was at the end. But I just wanted to absorb. His family was there, and I wanted to go up and say something to one of his cousins or something, but I didn't want to be. I didn't want to fangirl him. I did not want to be that guy. I just felt like if
Right.
I just wanted to be there. And I was media and I
Yeah.
was covering the event, but I did want to like step out of my ghost and be like, you know what, man. And I did
Yeah.
tell him, I said, this is an immense pleasure. And I hope when you do go to Cooperstown one day, I'm going to be there to see it happen. That's what I did tell him.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but
Feels
anyway,
authentic and still there's something cool about it,
yeah, riding
when
that line between pan and just being there. It's like you got
right.
to find that
Exactly.
line. So,
Right.
let,
Exactly.
let me ask you this. You're obviously very highly driven, and there's kind of this notion of, like you mentioned, Maslow and being
Yeah.
self-actualized. What is the motivation every day? What is it for you to help people and to also
Mm.
evolve as a person?
Yeah. Uh, I want people to, as I eloquently say, and I won't swear fully, but wake the F up before we die. And I'm very conscious that it's because it's rooted from me first. So I don't have it licked, right? So
Yeah,
I wake up and I have tendencies that are narrow. Like I'm a homebody. I'm more of an introvert. People are surprised to hear it, but I'm very cozy on the couch with a blanket and a husband and a cat and a glass of wine. And I could live my life that way. And then I would wonder over time why things got awfully quiet and small
yeah,
and narrow. And I wasn't experiencing the fog on the edge of the lake, or I wasn't going to Thailand, or I wasn't
yeah,
enjoying. And so I am aware that I need to override my default setting. And I
yeah,
am aware that I have, I also do, I'm very, very achievement oriented and want to go out and I have a bucket list. And so I have to rig the system and I've got to make the effort because a good life doesn't just happen to us. Like I just got off of a Zoom call with an old friend in Toronto and we did the thing we did, which, oh, can't wait to see you again. But it was like, hold tight. Wait, what? This won't happen unless we plan it.
yeah.
Like we have to actually put some kind of a thing in the books here. We got to plan like who's flying to
Uh-huh.
whom? How are we going to
Yep.
make that? Otherwise, it's just a good intention. And then
Yeah.
we will die full of good
Yeah.
intentions. And that,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I had a mom die in her late 50s, which is a big motivation source for me
Yeah.
of, in my opinion, full of regrets and those coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And I am then appropriately deathly afraid of dying like that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to die with all these goals and hopes and desires stuck inside me.
Yeah.
And I want then that for me, but I also want that for all of us because I've worked with enough clients over the years to know that we all just, we don't need to blow the lid off, but well, actually maybe many of us do. But we just want to get to the end and feel like you said, I'm not ready yet, but I also when we get there, I want us to feel like I did it.
You
Like
rode. Yeah.
yes.
And being a dreamer means you're going to have to be uncomfortable. I mean, you're going to have to do things that are just completely outside of your realm. And I mean, JFK was not a natural speaker. He was deathly afraid of going to the mic, but no one would know that.
Mm,
He was just so good and eloquent and he bonded people, but
yeah.
that's the reality of it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Well, driven by passion can help,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. So he
yeah.
went outside. So so I'm curious if you were to have a dream tonight and you ran into your 20-year-old version and you could give that young version of you a
Mm,
piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained so far, what advice would you
mm.
impart on that younger version of you?
Oh gosh, it's a two-parter. 20-year-old be like, honey, don't worry so much about what you eat. And number two would be more profoundly, be bold. So the
Yeah,
confidence thing.
yeah,
And it doesn't need to be gendered. I know women struggle with confidence sometimes more than men, but I also know many a successful man who's holding back from doing the thing they want to do because of like, I often imagine like if confidence was a pill you could swallow and take, like how much would you pay for it?
yeah,
What would it be worth to you to be, and what could that lead to? I'd say 20-year-old, oh, go for it. And
yeah,
I don't look back and think about all the buses I missed because I didn't have the confidence. It wasn't so much that, but it's just sort of, it's a pervasive theme,
yeah,
of just stop caring what
Yep.
people think, because most of them aren't thinking any. They're just thinking about their own freaking hair or their own life or their own report that they're handing in. Just do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wisdom. So, of all of the things that you've done and evolved and overcome and become, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, it's 4,001 days. It's because I left something that was working because all the signs said it's successful. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But what about the thing that makes your heart sing?
Yeah.
That just literally took my breath away right there. I had to breathe.
Yeah.
Uh, Doing the thing that, well, like I said, anyways, earlier, it was in COVID. So everything was just like reset button, but
Yeah.
do the thing that might be risky.
Yeah.
Talk about confidence, or do the thing that is a topic like, who's going to want to talk about the Grim Reaper? Oh, 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 I'm going to make them listen. That's the
Yeah.
thing I'm most proud of.
So, if you could get into a time machine, we get off this call, a time machine pulls up in front of your house, and you can go anywhere in time, anywhere in history, and see one event. Where are you going?
Mm. Mm. Oh, I'm going into the future.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Past has happened. Good stuff. Thanks. It informed us, but boring. I want to know now, you know, I'd say not even 100 years, 50 years from now, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's different? For me, I'm more interested in what's in store, what's happening, and how we can shape it
You
50
know,
years from now. Yeah.
I, the interesting thing about that is it's kind of like having that thing where I'm like, I'm not done yet. I was I was listening to something. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was Neil deGrasse or if it was Carl Sagan or something, and they were just talking about when our sun's going to actually turn into a red giant. It's all over with. And I was just like, wow, what is that going to be like? Like we get wrapped up in like moon landing and opening Capone's vault and all of these things, but when the sun is
Yeah.
out,
Yeah. Yeah. It, that feels like a bit of a game ender. Well, I think there were recent articles around, humanity is kind of at its peak. Like we're going to peter out soon, and obviously soon, not meaning in our lifetimes or even children's lifetimes. But I mean, and I also think of it, I laugh at that. Like I believe that, we're not the only ones in the universe, right? And so there
sure.
are other planets and galaxies and life. I'm sure why we're so arrogant that we think it's all about us, but like, yeah, of course we're going to go extinct soon. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, this is what evolution looks like. And so maybe now I'm going to change my answer. 50 years is maybe not exciting enough. I want to go even farther
Yeah.
and see the fossils they find of these things called Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
And, what are the life forms then? Um, Struggling with? Are they also in their alien forms to us, struggling with this experience of how do I make more of my life? They may have more or less than 4,000 Mondays, but how are they doing it?
Yeah.
I find
Yeah.
that fascinating.
Yeah. And what if somebody that comes from another planet or universe has a much longer life that they've figured out?
Right.
Somehow their environment is kinder enough to their organs that they can just be
Yeah.
super and they there's an infinite amount of
Which
possibilities.
exactly there are, which I do find the application of that question for humans as a thought experiment interesting, right? Like many
Yeah.
of us, we don't think we couldn't handle a longer life.
Right.
Like, was it Nietzsche? Like, man is the only animal who has to be encouraged to live.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
well, we want, we die for a long life or a better life or a different life. When it's like, what if we just worked on the one we have, right?
That's it.
So I don't think we could even handle living longer than 83 years.
Yeah,
But whatever.
yeah, I agree. I agree. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. There's all these circles of people, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am just eking away day after day to live like I mean it.
Well said.
I mean, I want to make the most of it. And it's as much as I profess it, that back to the point of me too. I'm trying to make the most of this afternoon too.
So,
And let's do it.
yeah, absolutely. So, my last question is this. Coming from the Midwest and coming from Toronto and living in California, what do you love the best about where you live?
Oh, it's remarkable to me how there are decisions we can make in life that allow for an immediate upgrade. And weather mattered to me and to my husband. And so that was a driving decision about, oh, wait, we don't have to suffer because I was not loving cold. And so it was one of those, wait a minute. Obviously upgrade here with the weather and scenery is nice, but it's this huge symbol of what else is out there? Like what
Yeah.
other relationships or jobs or parts of jobs or tasks or things where we could just maybe make a big life, it might be a big life change. It might take effort. It might take paperwork and administration through the DMV, et cetera.
Yeah.
But you know what? Humans have done this. We've worked
Yeah.
it out.
Uh-huh.
And how could you upgrade your life today in a way that might actually require a bit of a moving away from the comfort zone to get to so much more comfort of the 70-degree type, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said.
It's possible.
So, yeah, it is. So, if anyone wants to reach out, hire you, learn more about you, anything, what do they do?
Thanks for asking. 4000mondays.com is where I live. And my book is coming out in May. And so I'm super excited about that.
Excellent. Jodi, thank you so much. This has been so refreshing and illuminating. Thank you for your time. Have a great 2024.
Right back at you. This time well spent. Thank you.
Thank you.